Hey. What's up? Just another person who uses text-to-speech on YouTube. Now, I want to talk about Item Asylum and its bosses. Now, I don't hate the game as I play it pretty frequently, but I would like to touch on one game mode that has become absolutely ass a few updates ago. And for those of you who are actually blind, as I've said it in the intro and title, it's the bosses. So when bosses first came out, there were lives that were added onto the leaderboard for each player. The game mode was PvE instead of PvP, meaning you couldn't attack each other, and when your lives ran out you were out. Now these were actually really fun because the boss at the time, Ouija, was really difficult, meaning your team had to get a good loadout to actually beat him, and the majority of your team needed to be skilled enough as to not die by the minions, and that's what made it fun. Every 5 rounds you got to try again if enough people voted for it. If you couldn't tell by that speech, lives were what made the bosses fun, as there was an actual challenge. Now to get to the point, here's what went wrong. Around October, or some other time I can't exactly remember, a new boss was added that was Halloween themed. Now, this boss was, well, not the best. And by not the best I mean the worst one in the game. So to sum it up, it had annoying visuals, only one item to use, and a nice ore to look at, and it was just all kinds of bad. Not to mention how easy it was to avoid the attacks. Now, this wasn't the problem with the update. The problem was with the lives, and how that one change ruined bosses completely. So as I just said, this update removed lives from boss fights. Now, some people may think that it's not exactly a bad thing as it's to make it easier, but that's not as good as people think. The reason the boss Ouija was so fun was because of how much of a challenge it was. It was not likely you would beat him, and when your team did beat Ouija it felt like a huge accomplishment, and that's why removing lives is a problem. Boss fights went from fun challenges that you wanted to do to a game mode you never want to play. I personally leave and rejoin whenever a boss fight is chosen. Now let me explain. The lives counter was replaced with damage, making it a race to the top just like every other game mode, which takes away the setback of not needing to compete against other players for a round. You can also re-roll as many times as you like without any punishment. And this also means that dying to a minion or Ouija isn't a big deal at all, since you respawn moments later, and if you don't have good items you can re-roll again. You see the problem here? There isn't any more challenge to the boss fights, and when there's no challenge, it's overly easy, which means it's not fun to complete. It literally just feels like a chore. Well, that's that. That's pretty much the only reason I made this video, to rant about why the bosses aren't good, and I don't think my opinion about the lives being removed will ever change. I really do hope that lives do get added back at some point, but right now they're not in the game, and what else do I need to say? I just explain why the bosses aren't too fun anymore. I don't really want to ramble on much longer, so I'll leave it at that. See ya.